Hi folks, it's Ela, and I am going to show you my first sketchbook that I had started after a very long break. This is maybe, what was that? I have the date in here. It's 2014. I had a period when I didn't make art for a while, just couldn't teach. It was like, couldn't teach, couldn't sell work. Went in a different career direction. Making any money as an artist is very difficult, and so I basically stopped, and then I got back into it again after about a 7-year hiatus. So this sketchbook I bought at a craft fair. It's handmade. You can see how it's basically been sewn together by hand. This whole part came apart, and I glued on this fabric to kind of protect the binding. But yeah, there are lots of videos online on how to make a sketchbook of your own. If you want to learn how to make your own sketchbook, I took a class with Anna Kingsley. She's brickfactorydesigns.com, and she also teaches at the Richmond Art Center, where I also teach, and that's where I learned about her. So, but I'm going to focus on this journal. So I get students asking, what was it like, learning how to draw and paint and wanting to see that process. And, these pictures may look good to you, but I can see when I look at them, the sort of the insecurity, the rebuilding of my skill in drawing. And this is a more recent 2022, but this is 2014. And there's some salt. You can see I threw some salt on there. You can see I did layers. I did a pale green underpainting and painted, let that dry, put the shadows on top, let that dry, put the red on top. So I'm glazing. This is something I talk about in my watercolor classes all the time. But, just kind of building up that confidence and getting better at it. Painting my friend's aquarium. I remember not liking these fish and feeling like I wasn't very good when I first did it. And now I look at them and I think they're cute and fun and have character. So yeah, this is something we all experience. We're always harder on ourselves than other people are. This is like a little Linda Berry monkey and leafy thing. I love Linda Berry. She has a lot of videos on YouTube, and she also has some great books, and she encourages people to learn how to draw and have fun. So I was getting motivation from her books. And there's a little plant from my friend. So just getting back into just looking at things and drawing them in daily life. And also permission to just goof off and play around and, make little abstract designs. I have some metallic gold gel pen up here. I don't know if you can really see the metallicness. And I have some bronze acrylic paint here. So just drawing little simple shapes. It's like, okay, I can draw a box. I can do that. So having fun with that, not being too stuffy about it. And then eventually I got into my zone again. I have a video, I'll put a link in the description on how to do blind contour drawing. This is not a blind contour drawing, but it's that same kind of looking very carefully and slowly, having the pen follow along the edge of all the shapes of the objects. So these are just piles of leaves that I carefully drew and just kept the color really simple. But, I love to geek out. I love that sort of detail and enjoy that sort of process. I was at my in-laws for Christmas, and they had these flower arrangements. Here we go. So there's one with the chrysanthemums. There's some amaryllis. This is wood pulp paper. This is not 100% cotton, and you can kind of tell by the way that the paint puddles in these areas and by how pale this paint is. Some of these colors are kind of on the light side. But I like the composition. I think on the whole it still works. And here's some back runs. Sometimes they can be fun. Sometimes they're happy accidents, and I think they look kind of cool. Let's see. Looking out at winter trees in Kansas City. Looking out on those branches, and it's fun to kind of, okay, you don't have to keep it to one page. You can have a double page layout with your compositions. I felt really happy with this. So poinsettias, it's Christmas time. I think these are probably fake flowers, but you can see once again I have a pale underpainting yellow ochre, heavily diluted, and then I let it dry, and then I went in with my number 10 round brush and added those little veins in there in the second layer. I think this is alizarin crimson is the name of that color, and just having some fun. Did another one. I think this one is supposed to go this way, but just geeking out, letting myself be kind of hypnotized by the process. And when students talk about how they're impatient, it's like they haven't found that zone where you sort of slow down and let yourself get lost in the process. I have some birds. I was at a bird sanctuary, so we had some, I think that's an emu, that's a begonia. Here's some wet into wet. Here we got a little bit of a back run, but having two wet colors blowing together. I'm sure I had a little bit of this green mixed in with some red and made that brown color. Probably some of this color in there. I like to repeat the same colors over and over again in different mixes within a composition to kind of make everything feel like it goes together. Another emu and another begonia. Working really loosely. Just looking at birds, drawing birds, and they're moving fast. So I just kept jumping to the next one whenever it would move and I wouldn't be able to draw it anymore. Here's some crazy turkeys, and this is some kind of sparkly paint. You can see the green sparkle down there. There's some iridescent blue on that sort of brown over there. It's fun to get samples or purchase fancy paints from time to time if you have some extra money. And it's good to just keep your sketchbook with you. And this is kind of it's not huge, but it's a little thick, a little heavy. But I was on the Amtrak train, and I looked out the window, and the train had stopped, and there was this house, and I thought it was charming, and I pulled out my pen, and I had enough skill, enough practice that I could just whip out this cute little sketch. I was really happy with it. This is in 2016, so it's been a couple of years. I'm not painting it every day by any means in this book. I started off kind of slow, but then slowly I built my momentum. And these are little ceramic shapes that I had bought, and there's some salt. You can see those little interesting texture going on in there, and I kept some white so it looked sort of shiny. These are glazed objects, and once again letting myself play around. If you do some splatter with the toothbrush, I think I had a fan brush, and I had just a minimal amount of paint so you get these skid marks, and then I had a liner brush, and I'm doing this sort of calligraphic line with the deep blue, and just having a good time, trying not getting stuck on one thing. Don't worry too much about having a theme in your book. Let yourself jump around. This is like a little plastic water buffalo that was kicking around the house. So I drew an outline of it, colored it in, and just decorated the background in an interesting way. Here's a metallic pen in the background, repeating the shapes from these dots all the way through here. This gold is sort of similar to the color in the background. So just, and I'm not even thinking when I do this. This is something you doodle enough, and you start developing your shapes and things that you like to do over and over again. I went into a chicken phase. I was thinking about the story of the little red hen, and she did, she ground the wheat and turned it into bread, and she had the will and the means to do it. So just drawing chickens, looking at the internet and having fun. Went on a trip to Oregon, visited friends, and I really got interested in their cat. The kitty's eating food. If you ever have trouble drawing a pet, try drawing them when they eat, and they'll be still for a few minutes. Little shed in their backyard. More kitty pictures. And the kitty was keeping relatively still, but I also had to draw really fast. And I think I drew the outline just straight with the pen, no pencil. And then after the fact, I added the spots. After the kitty had moved, I'd kind of guess where the spots were and put them back in there. And, some of them I didn't manage to finish. Right? I like this guy a lot. Even if it's not accurate, there's fun character in there. It's like a little cartoon. You can feel how that cat was feeling. There's my kitty trying to get that shape. Some flowers in a friend's yard. How he likes to clean himself. And you can see how I was able to get into much more detail once he was asleep and was keeping still. I was able to put some shadow in there. More kitties. Watching him move. Just practicing drawing. And also playing around. Once again, Mila and her gold metallic. And just wacky colors and shapes. Just drawing. Didn't know what I was going to do. Just did it. And enjoyed the process. Had fun with it. This is me drawing in Kansas City again. Looking out windows in my in-laws' house. And I'm using colored watercolor pencil. So I'd scribble directly on the paper. And then I would get my water brush, which is a brush that has like a plastic reservoir that holds the water. And you just get your paper wet with your brush, and you don't have to worry about making a mess. It's a very clean way to work if you're at someone's home and you want to keep things tidy. This is a pattern on an Indian tablecloth. It's another view out the window. Here's a cyclamen. So yeah, I'm saving the white. I have lots of practice, but this is a great exercise to try. It is challenging, but you can paint the spaces around the areas that you want to keep white. Same thing up here. I'm saving that white. That is the white of the paper. You could go in with white paint later, but this is the more traditional way to work. And also, you know, if you have something that's very neutral like dirt, there's no reason why you can't stick some magenta in there. This is not brown from the palette. I made a dark color, and I think it's much more interesting and you know, cool visually. I like to use ultramarine blue in shadows. Here's an example. It just really reads like the sky is blue and there's the shadow and the color of the sky is reflecting onto this building. Santa Fe Ghost Ranch. And I had kind of a limited palette. This is not the colors that I would have chosen for this trip. Fortunately, I was able to have enough of this sort of orange color. You can see how pale it is because I didn't have very much to spare. But it's a good line drawing, and I think it turned out pretty good. And yeah, you know, this purple, that's actually amethyst paint. It's sort of sparkly. It's by Daniel Smith. It's very expensive. I don't necessarily recommend it for the price point, but it is fun to play with. But this is a very different color composition than what was actually there in real life. But you can play, you can experiment. It's good to try to match colors, but it's also good, you know, if matching colors is less of a big deal, you know, go in your own direction. Or just go in your own direction. It's good to play around. Try one thing, try something else. Here I am with colored pencils again, and I put some blue watercolor on top at the end. I'm pretty sure that's phthalo blue, just to kind of make it look less scratchy. Sometimes watercolor pencil can look kind of scratchy. Some plants in my backyard. Once again, the background was not purple, but I thought, hey, purple would look good there. I'm going to do it. So I did, and I like how it turned out. There's a lot of nostalgia I find with drawing and painting places that I know really well. This is all the hats waiting near the front door at my parents' house. You know, one day they'll be gone and I will look at this and I will remember what it was like in hanging out in their house and looking at all the hats and sometimes borrowing them when I went outside to go for a walk. A friend of mine had some photos of turkeys, so I drew the turkeys masquerading around and did strokes with the brush. Here's my mom sitting in a rocking chair with a blanket. Just very loose, very fast, fun picture. Here is looking out the front window at my parents' house. These are clematis. And I put, you know, I can tell I painted them a light purple and then I let it dry, and later on I'm like, those aren't purple enough, and I went in with, I think that's probably permanent magenta is my guess of that color. But, you know, it's not photorealistic, but it doesn't matter. I look at this and I remember all the times I've sat in their house and looked out that front window. and what it looked like, what it looks like. And here's the ultramarine blue, just kind of how do you sort of loosely suggest foliage. You don't have to be uptight. You can kind of come up with your ways of creating texture. And then there's things that, you know, matter. Like I really want that bird feeder to look like the bird feeder. You know, it's red, it's more detailed. I'm paying much more attention to what that looks like versus trying to get every leaf exactly, you know, the way that it is in real life. You get to choose. I like that turkey. He turned out really well. And this, I painted it light blue, and then I put this dark color on top. So I'm glazing. And then after the whole thing dried, then I went in with my gel pen. Those white lines are a pen that I added. But everything else I think is just, you know, it's the white of the paper. So, you know, you practice and you develop skills, and you get more and more comfortable, and you start off simple and you build and you build. I wasn't doing this on page 1. Playing with the brush again. Going back and forth between tight and loose, tight and loose. Here's the last page. I'm looking out another window of my parents' house in the bedroom where I sleep in, and just looking out at the bushes and the bases of the trees. And I think there might have been like some oil on my hands or some crayon or something, so there's some resistance. But you know what? It's fine. It's fine. It's still, I like it. It's a good picture. It looks and feels like looking out the back of my parents' house. So yeah, there's a lot of memories in this little book. I'm really glad that I had it, that I made it, that I filled it all in, and it really did cover, I mean, you know, quite a few years. I mean, like I said, 2014 to 2022. So yeah, we're talking 8 years. My sketchbooks now, I tend to fill up much more quickly, and I actually have several sketchbooks that I work on at once now for different purposes. But you know, I encourage you to get a sketchbook. It doesn't have to be this fancy. If you have paper in a book form, it could be a calendar, it can be anything that you can find. You know, it could be a long piece of paper folded up into an accordion, but just carry it around with you. Take it with you on trips. Keep a pen with you, whatever materials that you're comfortable with, and just do some goofy pictures. You know, and it's just, don't be intimidated by the fact that I know how to draw. If you're doing nothing but wacky shapes, that counts. You know, if you feel brave, try drawing an animal or a person or a little scene, whatever. But take risks, and it's a nice record of your progress. So I hope you enjoy this, and yeah, I'll be sharing more videos with you of journals that I have filled out in the past, in the future.